Hello and welcome to the Game Football Podcast from the Times and Sunday Times. One of the most thrilling, impressive and entertaining matches in recent memory, followed by a tense battle dominated by tight penalty calls and VAR interference. Well, you can't have it all, I suppose. On today's show, we'll discuss two very different Champions League semi-final first legs as PSG edge Bayern in a thriller and Arsenal are forced to settle for a draw with Atletico. We'll also debate whether Michale Carrick should be given the Manchester United manager's job full-time, look at the latest baffling proposed rule changes and preview another big weekend in the Premier League. I'm Tom Clarke, and joining me today we have the former Ireland, Marseille and Millwall striker Tony Cascarino. The former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson is with me as usual, and I'm delighted to say, fresh from retaining his title as Sports Journalist Awards Data Journalist of the Year, our very own football reporter and tactical analyst, Hamzah Khalique-Loonat. Little round of applause, I think, for that one.
Where's the trophy?
Yeah, where's the trophy?
So I'll put it in a drawer at home.
Put it in a drawer?
Yeah, with the other one.
Come on, we're
With
on...
the other one, love it.
I'm joking.
Mic drop.
Hamzah, we're on YouTube now. We've got to be like Gary Neville and the lads on the overlap. Get it on the table. Come on.
I'll bring it next week.
Bring it next week. But yeah, a huge achievement for Hamzah doing what Jurgen Klopp could never do and win back-to-back titles. So, sorry, Hamzah, I couldn't help myself. That gag would work better if Alison Rudd was here. Anyway, there's loads and loads to discuss. I think recency would suggest we have to start with Arsenal, but come on, we have to start.
No chance.
Come on, we have to start with PSG, Bayern Munich. One of the greatest games of the season, one of the greatest games ever people started talking about. So just kind of some snap answers on how good was it? The greatest game you've ever seen? The greatest technical thing you've ever seen? Most exciting thing you've ever seen? Where are we at? Gregor?
It's right up there. We're kind of scratching our heads beforehand to think what other games. And the Inter-Barca game last year, the both legs were extraordinary.
Yeah.
But there was something about, they were two very different teams. There was something about the way both of these teams were totally committed to attacking and going at each other, hell for leather throughout the game, which was totally spellbinding. So it was right up there for me, yeah.
Hamzah? Best game of the season?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Best game of the last 5 years? Where are you putting it? You like Gregor?
I really enjoyed the second leg of Inter-Barca last year.
Yeah.
I thought that was phenomenal. You had the Acerbi goal and his story within that. Seeing a centre-back pop up inside the box in the 96th minute to score, because I remember I was doing the report and the goal goes in, you're like, I've got to just... what are you doing there at this time? So that match I love, and because it was a second leg, I think it meant a bit more. But yeah, this is probably just with that.
Yeah.
But, last week, on Monday's pod, you and Kit had a bit of a pop, didn't you? Oh yeah, Hamzah's complaining too much about football. You lot had forgot what good football looks like, and I'm glad that these guys reminded you.
Excited he was on this show, not only to talk about his award, but to talk about some brilliant football. The perfect timing for your return, Hamzah. Tony?
Yeah, well,
You've seen a lot of football in your time.
Yeah, I have, and sometimes when you hear somebody say, "Oh, it's the best game I've ever seen," or "He's the best player I've ever seen," and we throw out that comment lightly, I thought it was the most extraordinary game I've ever seen.
Right.
For lots of different reasons. You've got three strikers, obviously playing for Bayern Munich, who are all Premier League players.
Yeah.
Have gone obviously Diaz and then Olise and Kane, and then you've had PSG, who had three strikers again. But they used to have Neymar, Messi, obviously, and Mbappe.
Yeah.
And it's like, the game, how it was played was amazing. To watch the wingers, Kvaratskhelia and Doué, well, they were just causing havoc anyway. And then you had Olise and Diaz doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I've never seen four wingers in a game have so much productive things happen, happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just extraordinary. No holding midfielder for each team.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, goes against the grain. If you think of people like Caicedo, Declan Rice, who are brilliant, Zubimendi, all these type of midfielders, that they sort of negated that.
Yeah.
And it was an extraordinary game for many reasons.
It's that, I think you guys quite rightly mentioned that Inter-Barca game, but as you said, Gregor, that's two clashes of styles, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing about this was that they were both just going at, and I mean,
So
we should credit Bayern Munich for that, shouldn't we? And Vincent Kompany for the fact that a lot of teams have tried different things against this PSG team. But he went there and said, no, look, we're as good attacking as these guys. Even at 5-2, that's what I could not believe.
So one little word.
The approach at 5-2. Go on, Tony.
Just think of it. It's such a great game. And the game gets kicked off, we're kicking it out of play. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah. Turns out it's not all wrong.
No, but we'll start the game, we'll just kick it out of play.
Yeah.
Like rugby.
Yeah.
We'll start from there.
But I think it's the Bayern approach, wasn't it, that has much lent to this, because we all said, Gregor, you've talked about it on the pod so often, PSG will never change. Tony, you've said it as well. This is how they play under Enrique. You wouldn't have been upset if Kompany had come and changed, would you? Slightly. I mean, you would have for the spectacle, but you could have understood it. But the way they went at it in the same way, and at 5-2 down, I think that was one of the things that made it so extraordinary for me watching it, was being 5-2 down, and you're watching it, and they're at home, and you're thinking, tie's over. Tie could be done here.
Yeah.
And the response, the fact that Bayern had a response, and that it was so good. They could have won in the end.
Yeah.
It could have been 5-0. Like that, to me, was the most extraordinary thing. Hamzah, you've watched Bayern Munich play under Kompany. What is it about them that makes them go like that? Is it just their forward players?
It's a belief in the way that they play, and Kompany's unrelenting in that. It's really interesting. You have a lot of defenders that become managers. Kompany's one of them. Ashley Cole has just started his managerial career. He's been coaching for a while, and both players that have played in very good defences, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to play like that. I don't want my team to play like that. I want to entertain. I want attacking football. I trust in the instincts of my players, my attacking players, and I want to empower them to make decisions on the pitch. So it's all about just giving them a rough framework, give them a few rules, and we discussed this a few weeks ago. Like, Kompany says to his players, you can go wherever you want. If Kane, if you want to move all the way to left back, sure, you can drag the player with you. And it works two ways. So this is what Kane will do, is he'll test at the very start of a match. You'll see if an opponent is matching up man-to-man with him, so the centre-back usually, and he'll say, okay, let's see how far you go. If you go with me, I'm going to test you and take you to an extreme position. And if you do, that means Elise or Musiala or Diaz can then attack that space that you've left. And if you don't, cool, I'm the spare man in midfield. So that's the calculation he makes. But what Kompany says to them is, all right, all of you guys are free to go where you want. But one rule, you get your shots off in the box. So you finish in the box. And that's it. He gives them a very simple, clear framework. And when I say simple, I mean he communicates it to them simply. When you watch them, you can tell it's not simple. It is wonderfully complex and so fun, but it relies on those players and their instincts and allowing them to express themselves in the game. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah. It relies on supreme athleticism, like extraordinary technical ability as well. Every player on the pitch, and that's the thing.
Was
the thing
unbelievable. Wasn't
the
it?
speed's the biggest thing to me. I watch the speed of this game, and it's just bewildering to me. It's like a different sport to anything you like. Certainly anything I played, and a lot of football you watch. Like you watched the game the following night, and it looked so rigid and static and stodgy, and that's fine. It can be engrossing in itself, but this was just the speed at which everything happens and the commitment to getting forward. There were times where there was a moment like last night where in the Arsenal game where they played a great little kind of like combination of passes on the edge of the box to break free in midfield, and no one ran forward to kind of support the attack.
Yeah.
Every time PSG and Bayern do that, they have like 4 or 5 bodies just completely running in a straight line. We're going to support this attack. Total commitment to attack. And that's what makes it so exciting.
See, I just on that, I've always had this discussion with you, Tom, and we've discussed this before, is that I watch a lot of goals, and when I'm watching goals being scored, I always count how many bodies are in the 18-yard box.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who it is, it just how many. And
although it's interesting who it is a lot of the time.
Exactly. Well,
PSG,
Hakimi could be in there, Mendes, whoever.
Is,
yeah. And so I always felt, well, that's a really hard choice for a defender, because they don't know how many are coming in and who to pick up and what type of run they're making. And so it's really, well, for me, look, the game at 3-2, I'm thinking everybody normally, every coach in the world would be going, like Chelsea when they were 3-2 down in Paris. I remember saying to Michale, I'm watching it, I'm going, get out 3-2, take the 3-2 loss. Don't try and go after them. And Bayern Munich have just done the exact opposite. They've just literally gone after them, and I kept thinking, Vincent Kompany as a manager has chose to take the risk of going 5-2 down or maybe 6-2.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly brave to do that in Paris.
Sorry,
just that first point that Tony made, I think, is really interesting, especially when you compare matches, because if you take the Arsenal match, especially when Saka came on, right, he was doubled up on a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you just look at that fact, you go, well, why was he doubled up on a lot and Kvaratskhelia or Elise not? Well, the key thing with both teams is that they put so many players in the box that you can't double up on them. So that means those guys are one-on-one all the time. Because whereas most teams just think about, okay, most top teams will go, okay, we'll build with a 3-2-5, we'll have 2 wingers on either side. Maybe they'll get an overlapping run, they'll be a bit supported, and then there's 2 attacking midfielders that one might crash into the box, and you've got your striker. That's your main sort of reference point. And those 5 guys are going to pin back the defensive 4. If you just put more players in, that completely changes that dynamic. And then suddenly you don't have that thing where the opposition team can put 2 on your winger. They have to put those guys in the box, and that means you've got Kvaratskhelia or Elise or Diaz going at their fullback every time. And what are you going to do? You obviously, people say, oh, well, why don't you just put 2 guys there and defend a bit better? Then you lose the guy in the box. Then you're getting killed.
Then it changes it all completely.
You were a fullback, okay? What would you have been like facing wingers, all 4 of them, not one of them, all 4 of them, knowing how to defend against them?
In trouble.
No, but do you know what I mean? But that sort of mindset of like...
No, well, Hamzah also, to kind of speak to Hamzah's point there, a big part of my role when I played was about getting help around me. And these guys don't have it. Or if they do, it's kind of, it's rare and it's minimal. Because everyone else, as Hamzah said, is committed to being
all 4 of these wingers backtrack as well. We're not just talking offensively. All of them will get back and help their wing back out or their fullback.
It was interesting, wasn't it? There was a good interview with, I think, Dembele after the game. I forget which network, but he was talking about, asked, what about the kind of running, and there's so much fitness, and he's like, well, if you don't run, Enrique won't play you. Like that's as simple as that. If you don't run,
and you go back to
that
kind of that video of Luis Enrique with Mbappe in the analysis suite.
This is what you need to do.
What you have to do, and he kind of didn't look that happy with what he was hearing.
I'll tell you another point that's really interesting from this game. Luis Enrique's Spain in Qatar, the World Cup, were the most ball possession-based team I've ever seen, offered nothing going forward. Whatever happened to his life, and when the penny dropped, because his football, if you watch Spain at that time, they were awful in the World Cup in Qatar. And I remember commentating when Morocco beat them and thinking, this Spanish team, just keep the ball. Possession wins them a game, and that's it. They never look dangerous. And then suddenly he's got this team now that he must have along the way gone, I'm never doing that again with a football team. Because now it's just relentless.
Great. Just quickly on the defending, Gregor. I mean, you obviously loved it. You loved the spectacle. Hamzah's outlined why it's so great, the 2 teams going at it and people aren't doubling up and stuff. Was there anything that you were like, come on, lads, you could have, was there nothing that can stop players when they're this good?
No, to be honest, I've been a bit bewildered by some of the kind of conversation in the aftermath of this game, and particularly when I was watching the footage. You had Clarence Seedorf, Wayne Rooney and Daniel Sturridge, the 3 strikers, saying, how bad's it defending? And they kept coming back to it. And I was like, guys, what are you talking about? Like, I think you can make a case for every single goal for the attack, as opposed to criticise the defence.
Something wrong.
I think Michael Elise's was on the borderline because he picked up the ball in the pocket space on the edge of the box, and there were 4 or 5 PSG players in the vicinity, and none of them really got close enough to try and block a shot, which when he was actually in the box by the time he took the shot. I will say to that, you're playing against Michael Elise. He can make a fool of you, and he can dance in between you. It's not. I'm not saying it was easy, but that's the one. The others, every single goal.
Diaz's goal, Gregor?
No, Diaz's goal was a brilliant run.
Yeah,
amazing pass.
Absolutely exquisite pass, and his first touch was out of this world. And then he dummied him again. Like, no way. That's Diaz. That's brilliant.
I don't know if Marquinhos would have got there when a yard quicker a few years back.
Maybe.
I'm not being ultra.
And I'd say, like, again, Stanisic for Kvaratskelia's first goal, when he kind of, first of all, he was done in behind, and then he retreated, and then he stood him up. He cut inside, but again, it's this Kvaratskhelia, and it was so clinical, it was ruthless. You can't. No. That's another one. Maybe. Even the set pieces, there were brilliant deliveries. That near post run by João Neves is so hard to defend, even if he is like 5'4" or whatever. And then the Upamecano's one, again, it's in that the keeper can't come for it. Yeah. He's a towering defender. None of it. It was just brilliant attacking play, and I find it strange that people were so keen to focus on.
Yeah.
And also talking about it as if it was some sort of philosophical, choice aberration, because you can't. Company was brilliant afterwards in this, in the aftermath of this game too. In his interviews, he was asked this question, and he said, "There's no halfway house when you're playing against players of PSG's level or our level. You can't go half. There's no half measures in the way we play, and the only alternative is to completely defend. You can't do in between." And he's right, because if you don't commit totally to the attack we're seeing, you don't see the game we see.
I think the statistics back up Gregor as well, because if it was a really bad match, you'd have like super high XG, for example, right? Now, you had 2 penalties, which inflate those totals a bit, but as in if you strip out the penalties, in open play specifically, it's just 1.05 for PSG, 1.55 for Bayern. That's pretty attacking, but pretty normal, right? Like, and the key thing in this match was that the finishes were unbelievable. Was it 9 of the first 10 shots on target were all goals? And if you think through the match as well, I reckon there's only 2 massive chances. Ousmane Dembele in the first half and Michael Olise in the first half. The rest are chances, but not big ones. And what you actually see as well is the managers largely sort of understanding what their players' defensive strengths are. They go, okay, well, if you try to ask Ousmane Dembele or Kvaratskhelia to defend in the box, in their own box, they're not good at that, right? But they're amazing at pressing. So you defend from the front. And while Take Pacho is not the best defender in tight spaces, in big spaces is amazing. So why would you say sit back in a low block when that doesn't play to any of their strengths? In fact, you play to your strengths and be attacking. And I think both teams actually defended quite well, and it feels counterintuitive.
And Kane and company both kind of. The retort was, I saw a lot of great defending today. And, Wayne Rooney going, I think he's like, I love Harry Kane, but I think he's mistaken it. No, what Kane recognised was when he dropped off, as Hamzah talked about, almost to the edge of his own box, often a centre-half followed him all the way. That's brave.
Amazing.
And like to also balance off to cover that is no mean feat. So there was a lot of great defending, a lot of 1v1 defending, and a lot of times the attackers came out on top, but that's because they're so good.
I got one for Bill Edgar here. So I don't know if this has been mentioned. Bayern Munich have scored in every game this season, Cup and League.
Really?
Every game they've scored a goal. They haven't had one game they haven't scored.
That
is, it says in itself that their style is beyond bonkers at times. And it's effective, as Hamzah and Gregor have said.
In the league match this weekend, they were 3-0 down, and then they brought on Kane and Olise, and they won 4-3. It was...
Olise.
I was going to say,
God.
Is he the most improved player you've ever seen?
Michael Olise.
I mean, we just said about the most amazing game. Have I gone over the top and done
Michael Olise, 47 games this season, 20 goals, 25 assists. He's the only player in Europe's top 5 leagues with 20 and 20 for both categories. Gregor, I think you undersold him. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how impressed I was that 10 years ago you said this guy is the real deal. I don't think you went far enough.
No, miles off. And you didn't see this.
So when did you first see him, Gregor? What
at Reading.
At Reading, when he was on their early
I think he was 18 or 19, and like you knew he was special. But and I did say that it was like, he could be Champions League level special, but I didn't think he would be the best player in the Champions League and like Ballon d'Or winning, special. But he is that now. And you see the way he's just, imagine playing against Michael Olise.
I mean, I've never seen
ways.
Mendes.
If he gets past you on the inside, it's like there's about a 90% chance it's a goal or like a pass for someone to score.
Oh, do you remember?
And if he goes down the outside, he has that way of running along the one when he ran along the byline and flicked it and hit a defender and hit the post. He was like, imagine defending that.
Well, remember when Inter Milan played Spurs and Gareth Bale ruined Maicon? Maicon at the time was the best right back in the world. And Mendes is a left back, but he's one of the best. A great player. And yet, Olise embarrassed him like Bale did to Maicon. It was that type of performance.
Another great stat that I loved that maybe comes back to Hamzah, your point about XG and things. Manuel Neuer didn't save a single shot in the whole game. He's the first goalkeeper in a last 16 Champions League to concede 5 goals without saving a single shot, which again speaks to your point, Hamzah, and yours, Gregor, that actually this is about the attackers and the goals. Just quickly on Harry Kane, Hamzah, a player that you've written excellently on this season. It kind of weirdly made me like quite proud of Harry Kane watching this game, just because of how brilliantly technical it was and how he kept dropping deep. And you'd see him drop deep with the press coming behind him and then look at his defensive options and be like, if you get pinched here, Harry, you could be in big trouble. But he was so brilliant. There was a couple of times where you thought, oh, he's lost it. Just wiggled his way out of it. I mean, I keep saying it this season, but this guy is almost still underrated. I keep banging on about it. Hamzah, are we now seeing him get even better? Is he one of these players that we see him when he gets around players of a really elite level, and this is not a dig on Tottenham, that you're like, wow, he's getting even better?
Yeah, I mean, the evolution that he's had is remarkable, especially in that creative, to that creative part of his game, because when he first started doing that after his ankle injury, he would drop into midfield for Spurs and he would try it and it wouldn't quite come off. He'd think, dude, just get in the box.
Yeah, get in the box,
and
Harry.
then it clicked, and as soon as that happened, the relationship with Son in particular was unreal. It was just a cheat code. The ball comes in, he drops, Son goes, boom, counter-attack, goal. And he's refined that, and you see so many moments of genius in so many ordinary parts of the of play. There's one moment where he received the ball back towards goal by the touchline, and I think he had pressure on his back, and he fell over, and he then defended the ball while he was on the floor, got up, and then flicked it between both feet, just as both PSG defenders were trying to press him, and then just played out. It was super cool, and Tony will know this because, well, both of you will know this. As in, when you're a player, you start off and you, as a young player, you're athletic. So you're at your athletic prime, and then as you get older, you get a bit more experience, a bit smarter, and you have that sort of golden period where you are both smart and at the top of your mental game, and also still at the top of your physical game. And as you get a bit older, you become smarter, but you don't quite have, your body can't quite do what it could. And he's in that golden zone now where you are super smart, you're thinking ahead of everyone else, you're using all your experience, and your body can still match what you want it to do. Did you guys...
Well, no, I was going to add to that, Hamzah, on, look, he's got two perfect people alongside him, because Elise hugs one touchline, is going to go into space behind, and Diaz is relentless. I mean, I said to you at the time, I was gutted when he left Liverpool. Yeah. It's like he will always run and chase. And then he has Musiala, as you touched on earlier, who'll drop into a space. And Kane's he's very like Sheringham. In the way Teddy used to do that all the time with Spurs, drop into spaces with Anderson, and he'd had runners behind. Yeah. He'd done that brilliantly well and had a great career. Ended up winning a lot, as we know. But having the perfect foil for you as a player as well. I had two wingers at Nancy, and I played probably as well as I'd ever played. I played actually better than I did for Marseille. Yeah. And a lot of people, I really played my best football. I had two lightning wingers. Both of them were they obviously weren't to the level of Elise and Kvaratskhelia, all these stuff. They weren't that level, but both blisteringly quick. And I would just literally drop, and they would go behind me. So if I flick it on, or I held it, and then someone would spin. We had a Moroccan number 10 who was really gifted on the ball, and I just loved it.
Perfect blend.
And I didn't have to run in the channels, and didn't have to get to places. Yeah. And Harry's got that beautiful luxury of having so many good players around him.
He's in the perfect
It's like all
space.
three parts. So like when you build an attack, you want like a dribbler, a creative player, and a shot getter. And what they actually have is Kane, who's both a creator and a shot getter, Diaz, who's a dribbler, and Elise, who's now all three, the triple threat. Yeah. And it's interesting as well because wingers that like can get shots off and dribble and can create often aren't involved that much. Yeah. And he's also involved a lot. Yeah. So you've got the triple threat, the double threat, and then just the pure dribbler. It's a wonderful balance. Yeah. And when you think about building attacks, those are all the three elements that you want. And then in midfield as well, I can't remember who came up with the phrase, but as in the idea is the old Liverpool teams, they talk about this. You'd have a buzzer, a cruncher, and a spreader. Buzzer is a runner. Cruncher is a tackler, spreader is a passer, right? Yeah. And it's those three profiles that create a very balanced midfield. Right. And if you can get players that do each one, or if you can have players that do all of them, then you've got, and you look at both teams, and maybe Bayern are missing a bit of a tackler.
I mean, almost everyone on the pitch.
I was going to say, we're very dangerously close to doing an entire show about one game, thus proving the point that it maybe
was. And now we're on the break. What's the quick question?
We should mention Arsenal, but Gregor, go on. What were you going to say on the back of Harry Kane?
Almost everyone on the pitch kind of has all those traits. That's the thing that struck me watching this game. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be cruel, but like I'd say Stanisic was the only player perhaps slightly a level below, and he did have a difficult time against Kvaratskhelia. Everyone else, they can dribble. They are like little Duracell bunnies running around with a ridiculous engine, and they're all technically gifted. Like, and it doesn't matter what part of the pitch you're playing on, because you all have to play a role in the system, and it was just a joy to watch. So yeah.
And just very quickly, I would say if PSG did make an error, it was in the first 60 minutes. I thought it was fabulous. Both teams attacked, and when they went 5-2 up, they tried to just be a bit more conservative with the ball. You actually saw them consolidate possession, and
so they actually let Bayern come.
They just tried to slow the game
he made
down
changes as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brought Hernandez on and just started. Like,
and at that point, Bayern just went, we can sense what you're trying to do here, and we aren't going to leave with a 3-goal deficit. And they went for him.
And we're delighted that they did, because it makes the second leg.
We did the second leg on this game as well.
We might as well, to be honest. Honestly, Arsenal fans, I'm trying really, really hard. I've been looking at them all going, shut up when you talk about Arsenal. So let's do just that. Very quick question to set us off. Arsenal unlucky in this game not to come away with a win. We're obviously going to talk about all the decisions, but I thought not a bad performance from Arsenal, like in a game and in a stadium where it's always very difficult to play. I felt they were a bit unlucky not to come away with the victory, not just because of the decisions that I think slightly went against them, but also because they were the better team.
Yeah,
anyone agree?
I'd say a little bit. After the first half, where Arsenal, I felt, were in way more control.
Yeah.
I think they were a little bit taken back by Atletico and the changes they made. And to be fair, Raya pulled off 2 or 3 fantastic saves.
Lookman could have had a hat-trick. I don't think they deserve to win the game, no.
Do you think a draw is a good...
I think it's a good result.
So
yeah,
then
it's
even
a great result.
a draw is a good result, but even then with the decisions, because this is, handball laws and interpretations, one of your favourite topics. I know you've enjoyed yourself talking about PSG Bayern, but I'm going to have to upset you. Any of those penalties, those handballs? I mean, the Ben White one is an absolute stinker, isn't it? How on earth is that handball?
So's the Davies one the night before.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, as people have said, imagine the finals decided by something like that. I cannot fathom how BGMOL, the game thinks that is a fair interpretation.
Well, that's the only thing you come away from this going, that UEFA actually have a stricter interpretation.
UEFA, sorry, yes, of course.
Actually have a stricter interpretation than we do in the Premier League. That's the only thing.
There's a bigger problem
but I suppose that's clear. Like, and Arteta said it afterwards. I have nothing to say about that because, while he was masking the fact that he thinks it's ridiculous, he knew that before he went into the game.
Right.
His problem was obviously with the way the Eze decision was arrived at.
Yes.
And I think actually it sums up the absurdity of VAR, that I think all of us around this table would probably agree it wasn't a penalty.
Yes.
But we also agree that Mikel Arteta is right to feel wronged because it wasn't a clear and obvious error. It wasn't like a howler. And like referees just forget that now. They forget when they're sent to the monitor. They're not looking for, were they fractionally right or wrong? Well, they're not supposed to be, but they are. And
that's the thing, isn't it?
And that whole
everyone
idea is a
everyone's
nonsense.
WhatsApp chat, every social media was like, "Oh, that's soft," but they won't overturn it. No. And then they overturned it. So,
Tom, there's a bigger problem, right? The night before, you've had 2 penalties. Okay. Last night, you've had 2 penalties and a penalty that was given and then denied. And you also had on Tuesday night, you had 3 times the referee's gone to his earpiece and he's listening. He's saying to the players, on a penalty check. So we've had 8 decisions on penalties in 2 games. Okay, 4 of them become penalties.
Yeah.
But that has to be wrong. If you're giving a shot from 12 yards on a 1-on-1, it's got to be a nailed on for me. I really, my frustration around penalties. But we've had 8 penalty incidents with a referee listening, then going to VAR and changing his mind, and also 4 penalties being given.
Yeah. In terms of, obviously, VAR and the penalties dominating, but then the game itself, Gregor, you touched on Lookman's chances and things. Arsenal, you think, happy to come away from this with a draw once you take the penalties out of it? You think Atletico were the better team?
I think they were in the second half.
Yeah.
And I think they really turned it up a notch and the stadium came into, the power of it came into play.
Raya pulled off a couple of great saves.
Yeah. And they were really, they were pressing Arsenal high. They were suffocating them really, I thought, for large spells in the second half. And I thought Atletico looked quite good. The Atletico have several faces now. Still everyone talking about how kind of they're master of the dark arts, and Simeone in particular, and they're not solid defensively anymore. And actually, they're quite a potent attacking force when they want to be. It's just that, I think he's trying to manage the tie. I think the first half wasn't like a mistake. It was like, let's suss Arsenal out, let's see what they've got. And in the second half, they turned it up.
So understandably coming to this one after what the magic of the night before, are you watching this going, neither of these are stopping PSG or Bayern? Or are you actually looking at it and thinking, I don't know, Arsenal are pretty good defensively, could have as good a go as anyone at stopping either of these teams if they face them in the final, Hamzah?
I mean, their strengths are very different to PSG and Bayern's strengths. And I think that would mean that rather... So both teams... Well, Arsenal in particular are really good at doing a mid-block.
Yeah.
As Company said last night, as in that's not something that his Bayern can do or really want to do in that sort of match. And I think that would pose a very different question. And Arsenal already played Bayern this season, a very different context and whatever. And Arsenal ran PSG quite close last season. So yeah, as in I think both teams could pose a good challenge, but we thought that also last year as well in the final, right?
Inter,
we went
with Inter, I was
PSG,
about to make that point.
Then they got run over. The Lookman chances were quite good, and I think the overall performance was good from Arsenal. Though I think they can be pleased with that, and the result is fine. Anything up to a one goal defeat, it was fine actually. To return to the home leg. Level pegging is good.
Just to finish then on these two semi-finals and this idea that everyone's talking about PSG Bayern and it should have been the final and things like that. But as Hamzah's just outlined there, this Atletico and Arsenal, two very good teams. I thought it'd be a bit of fun to kind of try and concoct a combined 11 of all four teams, because I was just thinking last night, like how many, if any, Arsenal players or Atletico players get into a combined 11? So, I mean, I've got Oblak down as the keeper, so we're off and running. Anyone disagree?
Raya
I'm with Tony on
definitely.
that.
Yeah, so we'd all have. So we're not even great. We're off and running. That's one. That's one already in there. Defence. I've got Hakimi and Mendes as the fullbacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone disagree?
No.
Yeah, and then centre backs. I think you get Gabriel in there, don't you? At least.
I put Saliba over Gabriel. I thought there were moments yesterday where Gabriel looked a bit sketchy, but Saliba was supreme. There was one transition in particular where on the right side, Arsenal panicking and the ball gets clipped into the box, and the one guy who's calm is Saliba, and he makes the clearing header.
Can you make a case for both of them?
You can.
You could do, yeah.
And Upamecano.
Yeah.
I like Upamecano. He's a great athlete and it's the same sort of profile of player who's able to defend that big open space that Hamzah was talking about, and he does it really well. So I would say Upamecano and one of Arsenal's back full backs.
Great. So we've got Raya and an Arsenal defender in there already. So we're off and running. Atletico.
Rice midfield.
Rice definitely gets into a midfield.
Yeah, I've got to get him in there.
This is when it gets very hard, though, doesn't it? Because surely Vitinha and Neves have got to be in there.
Yeah, for me.
Kimmich is pushing them close.
Kimmich is the best passer on.
Kimmich is in mine.
4 teams, I think.
Yeah.
Ahead of Rice. Just.
No, I would have Rice ahead of Kimmich.
Okay, and then the impossible. Who's your front 3 or 4?
I don't think any of the others. Well, I don't think it's one player out of Atletico.
You mean Gyökeres isn't getting in your combined?
No, I think
he played really well.
Alvarez.
He did play really
could play Alvarez as a 10, and me and Gregor have had this conversation that you could play Alvarez as a 10 because obviously it was Kane. And then whoever you want, Olise or Kvaratskhelia on the other side.
Don't say whoever you want. You've got to pick. There's about 6 of them.
Olise, Kane and Kvaratskhelia.
With Alvarez as a 10.
Yeah.
Either Alvarez as a 10 or...
Usman.
No.
No
Or a third midfielder.
See, we're being a bit unfair here. Luis Diaz has been unbelievable as well for Bayern.
Yeah.
And Kvaratskhelia, I mean, look, that's the tightest call of all the players. If you're making a composite out of a team, that's the tightest call for me.
Yeah,
so
the left-hand side.
So we've got 3 Arsenal and a case for Julian Alvarez. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
In a composite team. Hamzah, do you want to run us through yours if you've got one?
I think actually, no. If I was to pick 2 11s, it would be PSG and Bayern, and we'd watch them play again.
Very good. There's loads more still to come on the show. Just before we take a break, it's worth mentioning that Hamzah wasn't the only winner at the Sports Journalism Awards this week. Johnny Northcroft, our wonderful colleague, of course, was named Football Journalist of the Year for the 2nd year in a row, completing the double just like Hamzah. Martin Ziegler was named News Reporter of the Year, with Matt Lawton highly commended in that category. There were lots of other awards for our colleagues covering other sports, and the Sunday Times and the Times were named the best 2 newspapers in this country, which means, quite simply, that you are listening to the very best. Gregor, do you win any awards?
Thanks, Tom.
No, not yet. Me
Me
and Gregor next time. Me and Gregor next time.
26 years, not 1-1.
How many of you entered there?
I didn't know I had to enter. I thought you entered for me. You
That's your first mistake, Tom.
There we go. Now, after all that self-congratulation, we need a little bit of a lie down. But first, a question from Bill Edgar's quiz. Which Manchester City defender has not committed a foul in his past 25 appearances for the club in all competitions? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from the Times and Sunday Times. I'm Tom Clarke and I've got Hamzah, Khalique-Loonat, Tony Cascarino and Gregor Robertson with me. Gregor, as ever, might not have won any awards, but he's the only one who takes the quiz seriously. Got the answer, which was...
What was the answer again?
John Stones.
John Stones.
Yeah.
John Stones. Tony, a bit upset at that idea that John Stones hasn't committed a foul in his past 25 appearances for Manchester City.
Well, I think most defenders.
Game's gone.
He's got one here. I wouldn't be proud of having never committed a foul.
He barely got booked.
Behave yourself.
He was one of them, unless he was very good at doing a sneaky foul. Let's move on to talk about some of the content, excellent content, that is on the award-winning Times and Sunday Times website now. And one of them comes from Gregor Robertson himself with a comment piece which is headlined, "Which FIFA clown thought up the ridiculous under-21 idea?"
How do you not get an award for that kind of stuff? You know what I mean?
It would open a can of worms. Gregor, you are, of course, talking about a proposal to have one homegrown under-21 player on the pitch at all times. You say would undermine the integrity of first-team selection and hurt professional pride.
Well, yeah, that's the first thing to say. I mean, the idea that football, for all it sells, is like one of the world's kind of great meritocracies. On the for footballers trying to make it as a footballer, clearly there's a lot surrounding the game that you can describe as that. But no matter where you come from in the world, your background, anything, if you're good enough, you can make it. And although would sound like a kind of fairly marginal, change to this, any rule that predetermines the criteria by which you can select the starting 11 undermines that system. And even if you think it's noble and you're trying to give young players a chance, it still undermines the integrity of that system. So that's the first thing you've got to say about it. And the second is, it's just like, I don't know how, genuinely, the headline still sums up the piece, because who comes up with this stuff? I know it's a FIFA council and it's now just going out for proposal and it will surely be chucked in the waste bin. But how are these, it just smacks of silvering, men in a room trying to justify their existence. A lot of FIFA is like that these days, and it's because there's been so little thought about it. What happens if your one homegrown under-21 player on the pitch is injured or is sent off or has to be taken off because they're having a shocker? And as I pointed out, you'd be quite fortunate to have two homegrown under-21 players who play in the same position.
They were good enough,
and who are good enough. So if they need to come off, what do you need to make? Two subs? One to comply with the quota elsewhere on the pitch, and the one to replace them in that position. What would it do to the transfer market? What would it do to, for the way clubs would have to reorganise their squads to deal with this? Players before adulthood are already commodified to an extraordinary extent. We know what the spending rules have done to, profit and sustainability rules have done to the value of young players, because often, in accountancy terms, they're pure profit. We see what Chelsea have done, selling half their academy because it makes financial sense. This would just turbocharge that even more. And then it would create a cliff edge at 21, where your value would plummet. So it's absolutely nonsensical. And as I say, I'll come back to it, I don't know how whoever came up with that idea is being indulged. Yeah, well, fingers crossed, as you say, it's just a proposal. So fingers crossed the powers that be have read your very, very passionate comment piece on the Times website and they leave it there.
There is also a welfare consideration as well, because lots of players play too much when they're young, and then you can see that they burn out. I mean, the obvious examples is Wayne Rooney or Michael Owen's actually probably the best example. But let's say you're Arsenal, right? So you have to choose an under-21 player. So you go, okay, who's the best player that we can choose? 16-year-old Max Dowman, the guy who's doing his GCSEs. So then you think, okay, we've got to play him as much as possible. We have to play him every match, and we have to have someone else that can sub on for him. So that's a lot of workload for a young player who's 16, who physically needs to develop and prepare themselves playing 3,000 or so minutes in the league. That's one way to guarantee that your best young players burn out or get injuries or aren't given the appropriate sort of development time that they need to become the players they could
I'll
be.
just add one little thing on that as well. Say if you've got nobody that's come through that's good enough, right? So you're going to have to play someone, but they're not actually good enough to be in the first team. Is that a fair point?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be at a club where, we all speak to people at football clubs and some say, who have you got coming through? And they'll go, no one.
No one at the minute.
No one at the minute. Sometimes they have a batch, 3 or 4 of them, and they go, oh, we've got 3 or 4 really good ones we think could be involved in the next year or two.
And I said in the piece, we're all for, players having the best chance to develop and having a genuine pathway without too many hurdles towards the first team. But you can't manufacture it either. And I also made the point that I think for the players themselves, you don't want to be in there to fill a quota. You want to be in there on merit because you deserve it, no matter how old you are. So it's a ludicrous idea.
Yeah, well, you can go and read Gregor's very impassioned comment piece on the Times website. Now, loads more on there as well, including Matt Lawton and Peter Rutzler reporting on Mykhailo Mudrik's 4-year doping ban. I wanted to mention another comment piece on the Times website from our colleague Martin Samuel, who's on his way travelling back from Madrid after reporting on the big game. His column earlier this week was headlined, "Give Carrick the Manchester United job or ditch logic and start again." We're obviously talking about the kind of decision that Manchester United are heading towards as a club now this summer. It's a big one. Manchester United getting the win against Brentford on Monday night all but secures basically Champions League football for them next season, which is a huge thing for the club in terms of stature and financially as well. I'm going to talk about some of the maybe playing changes in a minute, but where are we all at with Carrick? Because we've been here before, haven't we, with Solskjaer? It's a similar type appointment. He's done very well. Lots of people, I'm sure, would say, hang on, you've only had 1 game a week. I think he would probably admit that as well. Where are we at with Michael Carrick in the Manchester United job?
I think this is a very valid point at this time, is that Carrick, under normal circumstances, would have been given it, I think, earlier.
Right.
But because there's such an opportunity with managers leaving clubs, they also think, cool, we could miss a golden opportunity of getting a manager that's already proven in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So they've got that conundrum to face. But I do think it's worth taking Carrick because I think the job he's done, he's steadied everything and he seems to have done it with a lot of calmness, and the team has improved dramatically since he's been at the helm. And I think, and also he'll be a manager, I think United wouldn't have to throw a 4 or 5 year deal at him. They could easily go 2 years. The one problem that they've obviously come at has been there's so many good managers available. There's a really merry-go-round within management.
Yeah. Who of those managers that we've talked about so often? Obviously, we know Oliver Glasner's leaving.
Areola is a massive one. I said to you the other week, I'd make the connection with Richard Hughes, who got him into Bournemouth and would know the agent and done the deal. That, Liverpool could be looking, but there's, obviously Glasner has had a really great time. Marco Silva, okay, probably not to that level. But even just generally, there's managers. De Zerbi got the job. He was out of work and Tottenham saw an opportunity to get De Zerbi in. Yeah. So, there's been a real merry-go-round.
What do we think, Hamzah, Gregor?
I would...
Xabi Alonso was another one.
Xabi Alonso, potentially Julian Nagelsmann, potentially even like Ancelotti, those because they're managing international teams. Yeah. I would take my time with this decision. What he has brought to Manchester United undoubtedly has been a massive mood change and a massive improvement. In the underlying figures, you can actually see improvement under Amorim. And like I said, the mood is vastly different, but you could see the defence was getting better. The attack was actually all right. We mentioned when Amorim was sacked, they're like, oh yeah, they had second most goals or third most goals in the league, most shots, second most XG. So the attack has improved. The key thing for United, though, is to get the recruitment of the players right, to give whoever the manager is the opportunity to challenge for the league. So they need a new...
Do they not need to get the manager first, though? Do they not need to get a manager in order to work?
I think the manager
need to make this decision before the end of the season.
I think the manager can be a key component of that discussion, but because of the opportunity in the market with managers, you've just got to make a call. And I would err towards going, okay, we're going to try and get our ducks in a row in terms of transfers and get our squad into a position where it can compete. And it's going to be flexible, and we'll have an idea of which managers we want because we've sounded them out, and we'll know that, for example, we're not building towards a back 3 squad, or we're not going to be a low block team. We're going to have a few principles, and our managers that are on our shortlist are going to match that. And because of that, we can then choose which players we want to match that. Okay. I would just keep options open. But yeah, I think they need a couple of midfielders still, a bit of defensive reinforcement, and then they're in a good position.
I'll come on to the players that you think they should sign in the summer in a minute. But Gregor, just your thoughts on Michale Carrick. Obviously, Martin Samuel saying on the Times website he should get the job. A lot of people think he deserves the job.
Yeah, I think Martin makes a pretty compelling case, because you're kind of saying, well, you know, you'll be starting all over again. I think that was his final sentence, and it's true. It's that I also think that the kind of depths that Manchester United plumbed, kind of, it's okay for them now just to be, for the next couple of years even, just to be like pretty safe and competing for the Champions League.
Yeah.
This idea that they always have to be getting the best in class, they always have to be, you know, I'm not sure that's true at the moment. I think United have fallen so far that they just need to be really competent again, and they need to be content. And actually, Old Trafford needs to be a bit of a happier environment, because it's been the opposite of that for so long. And I think Carrick looks like he can tick a lot of those boxes. There's a question, obviously, as Martin pointed out, there's the spectre of the Solskjaer sort of appointment, and you know, everyone was saying, yeah, give him the job, and then how that ended. But you know, as Martin said, like, considering what followed, Solskjaer did an okay job, you know, when you look back on it. And he was also up against peak Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola era Liverpool and City teams. The Premier League is not like that at the moment. I don't think you have to have the best manager on the planet to compete for the title. I don't think that's true.
But it helps, right, having a really good manager.
Well,
undoubtedly.
You don't think that because then, you know, the guys make a good point that there's that enticing prospect of all these different names that are going to be out there, and that they could, you know, that's the thing, isn't it? They look back and go,
I'm not sure. I actually disagree with that. Who is like so compelling that you would say, we'll wait for him?
Well, but no, okay, Gregor. Do you not?
No,
think,
who? I'm asking.
But before I say
Nagelsmann, any of the internationals, Hamzah saying, Ancelotti, if it doesn't go well with Brazil.
Not give it to Ancelotti.
Nagelsmann.
Okay, so if United, when they sacked Amorim, they might have had a manager already been in talks because this happens in the game, it happens with players, happens with managers, that they would have approached somebody to see if they were interested in the job when they gave Carrick so they might have already given a guarantee to a manager, because there's a lot of managers who are very silent. Don't tell me that Marco Silva, Glasner or Andolia, Areola have not had people talking to them. They're all leaving their jobs and no one knows where they're going.
Yeah, with the situation.
You sounded out, but of those three, I wouldn't. If I was in charge of Man United, I wouldn't have given any of them the job.
But you wouldn't have given Fergie the job when he got the job years gone by. Would you have given Fergie the job?
I don't know. I mean, he just won like a European trophy with Aberdeen.
I'm not saying he didn't do really well at Aberdeen, but would he have been the Manchester United going from Aberdeen?
That was a different era.
I know it is.
But
just beating Real Madrid.
Anyone think Eddie Howe? If Newcastle decide Eddie Howe at Manchester United? Consistent Champions League football.
I think he's a very gifted manager.
Give him a better squad than he had at Newcastle.
The squad is a key point there, because Eddie works his players quite hard. So if you're in multiple competitions, you're going to have a lot of injuries. But if you can give him a decked-out squad like Mikel Arteta has had, I think then you get to see full force Eddie Howe football. Yeah. And I think that actually be quite exciting. Yeah. However, you've got Champions League winners that.
Go on.
You know, you've just said there, Hamzah, and this is not having a pop at for that. Is that when we say Eddie Howe works his players really hard, and you've got Dembele who says, "Well, if you don't run in my team because our manager demands it."
What I mean is they get injured.
They work really hard.
Well, but also, this is where the Ligue 1 point comes in that we didn't mention in the first half of the show, isn't it? That's another thing we should say with PSG and Bayern, is that the leagues that they're playing in allows them to gear towards these matches. So in a Premier League, Hamzah's talking about, that's one of the reasons Newcastle have struggled. They get into the Champions League and have a great old time and reach the
because their squad's
but then they go to 14th, don't they?
Really?
So I mean, let's bring it back to Manchester United and the squads, because Hamzah's touched on it a couple of times. You know, they've got Casemiro, who's might be ending the season as their second best player behind Bruno Fernandes, leaving. Kobbie Mainoo, we believe, is going to sign a new contract as well. But who would you be signing? I was talking particularly about midfielders. They've been linked with so many: Tchouaméni, Anderson, Tonali, Wharton. Any others? If I've said which managers would you go for? Which player would you go for?
Those are all good.
Yeah,
any of them. Perfect. That's the shortlist.
Any of them.
I'd add one more in there.
Yeah.
Archie Gray.
Really? Too young, surely.
You mean too young?
Oh, look. But Man United need a proper...
They need an under-21 player, don't they?
No. The rule's not been enforced yet,
No,
Tony.
look, no, I'm
But if
joking
that's the- if
aside.
that- go on.
Archie Gray, if you watch him, is he ready to be absolutely in the team at the moment? If they go down, he would be one I'd take, I'd go after.
But wouldn't you also need... The point is that they're losing Casemiro.
Yeah.
And the point is that...
Elliot Anderson's terrific.
The success they've had this season has been about essentially buying Cunha and Bumo, who were like ready-made, drop them in the team.
I'd be interested on Gregor and Elliot Anderson. He's one I would definitely look...
Who would you... Hamzah's agreed with my shortlist there. If you were picking...
They're all good.
Jack
They're all
Hinchelwood
really
as well. Both of those.
Alex Scott and Jack Hinchelwood.
England.
Do you think they need two midfielders there, Hamzah?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give a bit of depth.
Yes, absolutely.
To the squad.
Like your shortlist, all of those players would be an upgrade. Like they're all players who you could see in a Man United
He's
shirt.
actually playing really well, Casemiro.
He's playing brilliantly, isn't he?
He's playing one game a week, which I think helps quite a lot, right?
I love Elliot Anderson. I think he offers so much in many different respects.
You wonder whether Manchester United don't want to be dragged into an Elliot Anderson tussle with Manchester City if, Bernardo Silva's leaving and Rodri's, on the decline. Elliot Anderson's going somewhere,
always
isn't
happens
he?
though, Tom, doesn't it?
He's going
Tug of
somewhere.
war
But
between
he'd be going City over United, wouldn't he? You'd have thought.
Don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think he'll be in demand in the summer. But I also think that Newcastle, after everything that's gone on in the last couple of months there, will be braced for some offers for their best players, and that might include Tonali and Bruno. So, and I think Manchester United would be interested in both of those players.
And I think as well, it's worth actually casting our minds back to the summer because United got criticised quite a bit, but I think only with time it became a bit more clear what their plan was, and I think they entertained offers for Bruno Fernandes with the idea that they could sell him and then completely rebuild the midfield. And when that sale didn't happen because Bruno didn't want to go, they just went, okay, we're going to have to choose what we buy now. And they went, okay, we'll just get forwards. So they sort of they were set back a few months in their planning. But I think with the new guys that they have in their team, specifically the new data department, they're actually in a much better shape now. I think they're integrated within Manchester United's ecosystem's an awful word, isn't it? But within their system a lot better. And I think their insights are being fed in and listened to a bit more. And that's helping that side of United, which has been behind the curve for a long, long time, catch up. And I think there might be, because of that, there might be some surprise names on the shortlist that outside of England.
Big couple of months for Manchester United. United fans, get in touch with me with your views. tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. Chaps, wanted to finish by looking at the weekend's matches in the Premier League, but first, a little bit of breaking news that's on the Times website whilst we've been recording. Scott Parker leaving Burnley after relegation from the Premier League. 45-year-old manager said it's time to move in a different direction. His assistant Mike Jackson will take over the final 4 games of the season. Bit of a strange one, this, to me, Gregor, leaving at this stage in the season, but maybe we talk so much about planning, vibes, mood, maybe it's just a case of stepping away now rather than in the summer and the club can start planning for life in the Championship again. But I mean, Scott Parker's got an amazing record in the Championship of getting teams promoted. That seems to be what he's making his niche. So it seems a strange one to me that you wouldn't have gone down, because, I mean, everyone thinks they've done quite well this season, but we're always one of the favourites to go down.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Parker seems doomed to be stuck in this sort of cycle of managing teams who expect to be promoted and achieving that, and that's no mean feat. I think people often underplay that achievement, and I think it is an achievement because often there's huge turmoil in the summer after relegation and big squad churn, and you've got to create a good atmosphere, and he's done that at 3 clubs. But when you get to the Premier League, like it's not just what Scott Parker does; it's what's around him, and for one reason or another, he's never been able to keep a team in the Premier League. And I think Burnley were competitive for the first half of the season. Really,
they
had
a couple of tight games, didn't they? They had a couple of matches where they ended up drawing and they could have pinched
you remember
victories.
after maybe 10 games or something, we were having this conversation. All the teams were out. Were out of the bottom 3. We're thinking this is a after what came before, everyone, all 3 teams being relegated in 2 successive seasons, all 3 promoted teams, that is. We thought, this is a great change, this is great for the league. And then gravity sort of pulled them back in. And I just don't think I don't think, like, when you look at the way Sunderland and Leeds sort of recruited such specific sort of blueprint, I don't think Burnley really had that. And they've not, on two occasions now, Vincent Kompany, who we know is doing really well now, had the same issue. They came up and played in a different way. He was totally committed still to playing the kind of attacking football that we were just lauded, but doing that with the squad he had at his disposal at Burnley was not possible, and some would say it was foolhardy. Scott Parker didn't try and do that. He made them dogged and tried to make them hard to beat, but ultimately they weren't good enough.
Well, it's an impossible job, isn't it? It's the club that go up, and they're always going to be favourites to go back down. Like Gregor said, you can play different types. You can never really get enough quality at the club. And I expected them to go down. I thought they made a bit of a fist of it, and Scott will have to try and find another job. It's a really hard one, because I feel for managers when they have jobs that, you know, they can do really well in the Championship with the funds they can pay or the finances. But once they get to the Premier League, they're completely against it.
Weren't quite as backed as well as Leeds and Sunderland. Leeds play Burnley on Friday night. Chaps, I wanted to talk about relegation. Tony and Hamzah, we've talked about it so much on the show in the last couple of weeks. And on Monday, I asked the question to Tom Allnut and Alison and Gregor whether we'd still see it as just a straight shootout between Tottenham and West Ham, or whether we start to look at the teams above them, Leeds, Forest. I even mentioned Newcastle because of the terrible run they've been on. How are we seeing it at the moment, Tony? Still a straight fight between those two, or do you think some of the teams above them could get dragged back in?
Well, there's still a number of points to be gained. There's still 12
4
points
games left,
You know, there's 12 points for there. And if West Ham or Tottenham, either of them can go and get an unbelievable result. I remember Sunderland one year when Connor Wickham was there, and they went on the...
Sunderland did it a couple of seasons, didn't they? Allardyce and Dick Advocaat, I think.
Really weird. And West Ham did it as well for one particular year. They went on a run of... No one expected them to go and get results, and they did it. Spurs have had a dreadful week again, where 2 injuries, Solanke and obviously Simmons. It's a big blow to them. And look, getting players back. They go away at Villa, which is a toughie for them.
Villa, who will have had a Europa League semi-final, though.
Yeah, I know.
On that.
I know, but I don't know. I keep seeing, I know they won at Wolves, but I keep thinking that Spurs are going to get out of it. And generally, they've had so many poor results. We only had 1 win in 2026. If West Ham have a win and they get beat, and any teams like Leeds pick up points or, around them. I was looking at the fixtures with Leeds and Forest. If any of them Forest could go and get something at Chelsea. Chelsea are not that good at the minute, as we know. So Spurs, literally the numbers game will tell you. If they get beat at Villa Park with 3 games to go, if any of them around them get results, they still, 2 wins might not be enough.
I agree, it's eminently possible. This week, you look at it and go,
they're down.
It's nearly done.
Even with, I mean, but we're talking about Brentford at home. They lost to Manchester United. Keith Andrews will be wanting his team. That's no easy game. That's no gimme for West Ham.
No,
it's not. But I have more faith in West Ham going there and winning than I do in Spurs.
Going to Villa.
Who's going down? Wolves and Burnley.
Very good.
I think
listeners and viewers, he practiced that gag before we came on air, and he still followed through with it. That's absolutely award-winning stuff from Hamzah. You'd say you. So I'm suggesting that you maybe agree that it is just between West Ham and Tottenham.
I think so.
You
don't know.
Don't think I can persuade you that anyone can get dragged back in. I just wanted to finish with a mention of the teams chasing the Europa League spot. Obviously, we've got a big game tonight, Nottingham Forest against Aston Villa. Gregor, you're going to be there for us. Very excited about that. But there's a fascinating little development, isn't there, in this narrative? We're getting very distracted by the battle at the bottom and the idea of Tottenham potentially getting relegated, the thrilling title race we've got. But you've got a big raft of teams currently being led by Brighton, Bournemouth, Chelsea are obviously in there as well, Brentford, Fulham, Everton are still in there. I mean, Sunderland are still in there. There's barely anyone, as we said on Monday, Gregor. Crystal Palace have, of course, got the Conference League. Kenny, a listener in the comments, pointing out that we haven't given Brighton much love of late, Gregor. Fabian Hertzler, we had a period maybe a couple of months ago where fans maybe weren't all that happy with how things were going. It's a very underrated, quietly brilliant little job he's doing, isn't it? If he manages to get them into a European football again in recent seasons.
You had that stat before that a few months ago he had more points than De Zerbi. So he must have demolished De Zerbi's record now, right?
That was at 50 games, I think when he brought up 50 games. I bet, as he said at that point in time, you wouldn't have known it if you were at the Amex. The mood wasn't great and he wasn't, overly loved, not like De Zerbi.
Yeah.
And then Alison obviously interviewed him just shortly after the the win against Arsenal and that the game against Arsenal and when there was that kind of bit of a set to with Arteta, and it seemed that like something he even admitted it. He was really open about it when Alison asked him about this. That seemed to sort of forge a bit of a connection between him and the fan base. Yeah. And then since then they've been on a brilliant run, like really brilliant run. I think bringing Pascal Gross back has been a masterstroke. But they're another team that they're really fluid, and there's so many players in whatever position they play are brilliant technically and great athletes. I love Kadioglu. Weafer's a midfielder who's playing right back a lot of the time. Hamzah just referenced Hinchelwood. I think he's gone just from strength to strength and kind of can play anywhere. He can play number 10 and he can play right back. He can play left back. He can play midfield. That's what I mean. There's so many, apart from the wingers. Yeah, wingers high and wide all the time. Sometimes make those into-out runs, but Mitoma and Minta in particular, but there can be others.
You thought Baleba was back to his best against Chelsea? I thought he was back because he looked like for a period he'd had his head turned, people were interested.
Well, he's warming up for his summer transfer rumours, isn't he? There's a guy who Brian.
I thought he was back to his best against Chelsea.
Yeah. Anyone pick a team to get that 6th spot? Just a team. I'd go Bournemouth because I think it would be absolute madness for Iraola to get them in the Europa League and then go, thanks lads, see you later, I'm off.
I think they're as good as anybody I've seen. Yeah. Have all them teams. Yeah.
Gregor?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chelsea just sort of...
boo, no one wants that. Hamzah?
Honestly, it's so tight. I wouldn't know.
Who would you like to? Who do you think deserves it?
I would really love either Brighton or Bournemouth to do it because
you like the seaside.
Bournemouth because Brighton have been in Europe before.
Exactly.
So I think
that's what I thought.
Bournemouth. No. The trips are it takes ages. Brighton, Liverpool. Oh my God.
Honestly,
poor James was late, and oh man, getting there and watching them lose.
Honestly, he's won
3 hours back.
He's won 2 awards, and now he won't go any further than London. We'll have to leave it there. Hamzah, Khalique-Loonat, Tony Cascarino and Gregor Robertson. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're excited about the final weekend of the Football League, go and listen to the EFL Extra Show, which me and Gregor recorded earlier this week. You can find it in the Game feed, and we'll be back with the regular show on Monday. We'll see you then.